Welcome back, everybody. We're excited to kick off this next general session, and it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator, Michael Kaufman, who is a longtime friend of the CIA, formerly served on our board of trustees, and who currently co-chairs the Menus of Change Business Leadership Council. Michael is a senior lecturer at Harvard Business School, where he teaches an MBA course on challenges and opportunities in the restaurant industry. He's also co-founder and partner of Positive Strategy, LLC, a management consulting firm, and remains an advisor to an investment firm, Astor Group, LLC. He's a nationally recognized industry leader who previously led Metro Media Restaurant Group, created a restaurant startup, and innovated a restaurant brand for a luxury retailer, to name just a few of his many experiences in the industry. So we're very pleased to have Michael as one of our dear friends and advisors. So please join me in welcoming Michael Kaufman to the stage.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Allison. It's wonderful to be with all of you here today, this morning. So we heard about burgers. We saw that there were so many possible ways to think about burgers. But at the end of the day, if we're looking at a business environment, we have to think about how to invest. And to advance food systems, which we heard about certainly yesterday in great detail, and to help sustain the health of our people, our planet, and our economies, it requires identifying and scaling financial mechanisms, business models, technological innovations that can optimize and accelerate the pace of change. And so in this session, we're going to hear insights from two business executives, one implementing a unique restaurant model that fights for food justice by making fresh, nutritious food accessible and affordable, and by fostering economic opportunity and empowerment among entrepreneurs from marginalized communities. And one who invests directly in early-stage food and agriculture companies, developing innovations to change how we grow, produce, and distribute food. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Bryce Llewellyn and Peter Hers. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
So Bryce is a food and health equity subject matter expert, author, and chef who uses his extensive background in food and underserved communities as a platform to create sustainable social change. He currently serves as the co-founder and president of Arthur Lee Consulting and Advisory, a social impact enterprise that collaborates with food entrepreneurs and organizations of color to increase their social equity, impact, and access to flexible catalytic capital. He's the former executive director of Everytable social equity franchise program, where he implemented and led a transformative franchise model that invests directly into marginalized entrepreneurs of color by providing the opportunity to open Everytable stores with zero upfront capital or net worth. Peter Hers is the general partner of an early-stage venture capital firm, First Course Capital. It invests in entrepreneurs developing innovations that will improve the environmental, human, and social health of the food system while delivering above-market returns. Previously, Peter was co-founder of Food System 6 Accelerator and a serial entrepreneur, executive in a range of companies over a 30-year career. So we're going to sit over here, and Bryce is going to kick off a description of his efforts on social change. Then Peter, then we're going to open it up for discussion among us, but primarily with you. So please send in questions to Slido. Bryce?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. First and foremost, I'd like to say thanks to Allison and Rupa and the team for putting Menus of Change together. It is not an easy task putting on events, so let's give them a hand. And the sound folks as well, everybody behind the scenes, making this look seamless and flawless. So yeah, Everytable is a social enterprise for-profit food company whose mission is to make fresh, nutritious food affordable and accessible for all. We believe that healthy food is a human right and should not be a luxury product for only a few. So we create from scratch chef-prepared meals and sell them between $6 to $9 per person, right? We're talking about roasted salmon with pickled onions, cauliflower rice, and spinach. But we took it a step further beyond that. We also created a tiered pricing model based on the median income of the neighborhood so we could create value in whatever community that we are. So that same roasted salmon meal you were going to get in a more affluent neighborhood, you would get $1 or so cheaper in a lower income neighborhood. Currently, we have 55 locations in Southern California and 9 in New York with plans to open up another 20 by the end of the year between the two markets. So we are a company that's rooted in equity. Our co-founder and Sam, who is our currently CEO, was inspired by Taylor Branch's books about the freedom riders during the civil rights era, their commitment, their sacrifice in the midst of what would be potential death, right, to fight for social change. So we asked ourselves, what can we do as a food company to create economic empowerment and reduce the racial wealth gap that exists in this world, excuse me. We understood also that at the root of food insecurity is economic insecurity. In Los Angeles County, for example, where we're located, there are currently 25% of the population that is food insecure. That's 2 million people. Unacceptable. So, about 2018, we started to look at the franchise model as a way in which to create economic mobility and create generational wealth. We understood that traditional franchising often required a significant amount of upfront capital from traditional banks, but also obstacles as far as like having to have a huge amount of net worth. So what we did is we created a social equity franchise program that Michael talked about that invests directly in our internal talent and allows them to own and operate an Everytable with no out-of-pocket money up front, no net worth, and then a guaranteed salary for the first 3 years of ownership. I'm excited to share that we will have our first 5 candidates that will become Everytable franchise owners in the next 60 days, and we will open up 60 to 65 of these locations over the next couple years and create and empower entrepreneurs who are long on talent but low on capital and resources to become owners and hopefully create generational wealth for many to come throughout their communities and within their own families. In closing, I would like to share one of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King, who said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are we doing for others?" Thank you.
That was great. Thanks. Bryce and Everytable are doing really amazing work, so it's great to be on the stage with him and with Michael as well. And thanks also to Allison and Rupa and everybody else who makes this conference possible. So I have just a couple of slides that I wanted to go through. And one is starting with just my background, because I didn't start in food. I was trained as an engineer in computer architecture and spent most of my career in deep tech. And it was about a dozen years ago when I was in a doctor's appointment and I was diagnosed as obese, suffering from sleep apnea, pre-diabetic blood sugar levels, elevated cholesterol, and gout. So I really like to dive in fully when I do what I'm doing. And the most remarkable thing about that visit with the doctor was how unremarkable it was for him. He's like, "You're getting older, and this is just what happens. But don't worry, we have interventions, we have surgeries, and we have drugs." He did cop to the fact that each of these interventions had side effects. But he said, "Don't worry, there's more surgeries and more drugs to address the side effects." And, like turtles all the way down, that was going to be the rest of my life, was getting more and more stuff done to me that caused more and more issues. So I went home, I looked up these 5 things I was diagnosed with, and they were all metabolic diseases caused by my diet. So I went back to the doctor and I said, it looks like there's a root cause here. Why don't I work on that? And he just rejected it out of hand. He said, forget about it. No one ever does. Let's schedule your surgery and tell me which pharmacy to send the prescriptions to. So that was the last time I saw him. And that was the beginning of my journey and turning my focus to food. And it was not easy because the marketplace of ideas in food is very, very noisy. And unfortunately, what that means is there's this tsunami of what best can be described. I'll use technical terms occasionally, it's BS. And occasionally there's a gem of insight, so you have to kind of sort through all the former stuff to get to the occasional gems. And so I built my own plan. I lost 60 pounds in a year, and everything went normal. And very few side effects. I was happier, and that was unusual for me. So I had to learn how to manage that. But that was, for me, the existence proof that we could do a better job. And the more I learned about the food system, not only was healthcare failing us profoundly, but the way we're growing food, the harm that we're doing to the soil, to the environment, and to climate is kind of equivalent to the harms we're doing to people's bodies, but it's just less visible, so we don't see it. So this is what I've now decided to devote the rest of my life to, is really trying to work on these food system challenges. And I thought I would just start with one broad challenge that we have, is that we're not students of history. And I think that becomes a really big problem, because if you haven't seen what came before, or you're not thinking about it, then every new thing that shows up, we decide, is going to be the solution to all our problems. And I'm going to give just two examples here. I'm old, so I actually lived through this. But in the 60s, we decided that butter would kill us, and we needed to switch to margarine. And we had invented these trans fats some decades previously in a lab, and that was going to solve all our cardiac issues. And that took 40 years before a book said, hey, trans fats are going to kill you. Some people had figured this out even sooner than this. But then you fast forward to about a decade ago, and it's like, wow, butter is really good for you. So this is a path, a journey that we went on with butter, but it's not the only case. I'll give you another example where we decided that cholesterol was bad, and dietary cholesterol was the problem, which, by the way, I think we now know that that's not so simple. But eggs were a problem. Never eat eggs. Maybe if you're a Hollywood starlet, an egg white omelet, that became like the thing to eat. But then, you fast forward a few more decades, and this is from Whole Foods, the best thing you can do is eat an egg. And by the way, the yolks are remarkably nutritious. So, looking at this history, one of the things I concluded was we don't know what we're doing. And for some reason, we keep trying. And so that's really the focus of our fund, is really to have that in mind when we do our investing. We divide our companies, and our portfolio is actually 50-50 on this, that half the portfolio are technology companies, entrepreneurs using engineering, using technology to solve problems in the supply chain that will yield to that. Not that these are easy problems and they may or may not succeed, but at least they're bringing the right tools to the puzzle. Those are what we call complicated problems. Then there are complex systems problems. And the complex systems problems are biological and human systems. And engineering does not work. And this is where we're very emphatic about this. We keep trying, even though we've got this graveyard littered throughout history of the things that we've tried to engineer, and there are always unintended consequences. So our goal is to really look for food products, also in agriculture, that are grounded in natural systems and aligned with old food cultures. because that's the stuff that works. So I think we'll end there.
Super, thank you. There we go. That was great. So Bryce, first of all, please, questions. I'm looking at a blank screen here, so I need your questions because we really want to involve you in the discussion with Bryce and with Peter. But I'll kick it off, Bryce, by asking you, so the Everytable social franchise program is incredibly innovative. I mean, there's nothing like it out there. And planning that and implementing that, how did you do it? What were the obstacles? How did you think about ensuring that it would be successful both for the company as well as for the individuals who are going to go on that journey with you?
Yeah, I think anytime you're doing something, like you said, that is new and visionary, there are going to be a bunch of obstacles. So I think our obstacle is creating something that didn't exist. What would the structure look like? So we really were intentional about the curriculum and the training that these entrepreneurs would receive. We were also the recruitment strategy, but then the big piece of it was like, how do you fund something like this? What we were able to do because of Sam's background and other team members that aren't here is we realized as a social enterprise public benefit corporation that gave us access to pretty low risk, low cost catalytic capital from foundations. And so what I mean is that because of that public benefit corporation status, there is a vehicle called program-related investments that foundations have at their disposal, and they've had it at their disposal since like 1968, which says that foundations can actually invest in companies who have a mission, who are a public benefit corporation, as opposed to a grant, which a grant is a complete write-off, in the hopes that that money would make them a small return. The IRS requires them that they cannot make, there's a cap on how much they can make on this money invested, to really fund ideas that the regular market is not going to touch, right? To show, to prove the model. So we had to also work and figure out who those players were in the foundation world to fund this. So that was one of the challenges as well, because most foundations, even though they may have had PRIs at their disposal, there's a lot of paperwork and logistical things that need to be worked out. There's agreements that need to be done. And oftentimes, some foundations didn't have the knowledge or the capacity to really execute that. And the second thing is that PRIs traditionally were used to invest in housing, like affordable housing projects where the margins were a little bit higher. And so we faced obstacles from the envision of it on a white paper. When I came to Everytable, Sam and the team had done an amazing job on raising initial capital from Kellogg Foundation of $1.5 million, but it was a concept on paper, right? What we wanted to look like, what kind of impact we wanted to make. And so when I came in, we had to bring that to life. And I think the obstacle is, well, you're creating something from scratch. So you're making decisions which you may not know are, at the time, they may not be the best decisions, and then you have to adjust. You're talking to different funders within the philanthropic world. Peter and I talked about this all the time, that what may be attractive to one funder is not attractive to the next. So how do you tailor your pitch to be attractive to that funder? So in understanding that, hey, this funder really is passionate about economic empowerment. This funder over here is passionate about food equity. This one is over here is about food system work. So who are those players? How do you create your pitch or your narrative to make sure that you can potentially receive those funds? And so it was an everyday, sleeves up team of several people beyond myself who worked to make this happen. The last thing I'll share is that one of the things that I did is I have one-on-one weekly and bi-weekly coaching sessions with each entrepreneur who made it into the program. And so what was also a barrier is that you're often working with people or individuals who come from trauma. They come from places where things like this don't happen for them. And so that plays a role on your psyche. So a lot of our conversations were about taking that, removing that thought process, and putting in the thought process of, yes, this is for you. Of course, you don't know everything, but who does? But we're still going to get through this, and we believe in you, and we're going to invest in you. So that was one of the obstacles that we worked on, and that's long and hard work as well.
Yeah, there are a number of questions about Bryce, and then we'll turn to Peter about is Everytable going to focus only on the West Coast and the East Coast? Where might it expand? How successful has Everytable itself been? And how is it? How important is it for it to build its cultural sustainability in addition to, as a company, in addition to what it's offering to the communities?
Yeah, I'll start with the earlier questions. Right now, we're focused on New York and Southern California. We have plans to go to the Midwest and to the South, late 2024, 2025. And Sam's ambition is to have Everytables all across the country. Obviously, we have to take, one step at a time. From a success standpoint, we've been able to raise, as a company, Everytable parent, $85 million since inception in 2016. From individuals, but also institutional investors. That all the way to a Series C, which we closed in 2022 for $55 million, and currently just raised a bridge round going into potentially, hopefully, a Series D early next year. So we just secured 20 to 21 million. So, I mean, we're still able to be successful in raising capital, which is a huge piece of being able to build a company. Because you can have the greatest idea, greatest team, but if you run out of money, it all goes away, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's extremely important every day. What I've learned is that every day as companies grow, you have to be consistent and persistent about sharing what the culture is, the why behind what you do, because purpose only goes so far. People get tired. So they need to be reminded of why you're doing this, and you're doing something like Michael had talked about earlier, that hasn't been done before. And I'm not talking just about social equity franchise. I'm talking about Everytable as a company overall. Like, there aren't many companies out there that I know of, and I've done a lot of research, that are selling nutritious from scratch food for $6 to $9. I mean, and the whole impetus of it is Everytable was created through Sam owned a nonprofit or ran a nonprofit called Feast, which taught community members and worked with community members in South LA, where the median income was $20,000 a year, about how do you eat healthier, cook healthier, et cetera. And what they said to Sam is like, hey, we love kale smoothies, we love all this stuff, but let me be honest with you, in our neighborhood, in our community, it's saturated with fast food, the liquor stores with processed food. But the thing about that is that it's accessible and it's affordable. I'm working 2 or 3 jobs. I don't have really time to cook, so if someone can create something that's similar to that, but is healthier, then we would utilize that. And so, I mean, like I said, the ambition is to grow the company across the nation and the country, in the world, and have Everytables just as synonymous as you see a Subway.
I will say that in the course that I teach at Harvard Business School, we do a case study on Everytable when Sam joins us. Occasionally, he's doing it while he's walking on his
on the treadmill,
elliptical. But the model that has been created on the production and distribution side for Everytable is extraordinarily innovative, and as far as I can tell, quite profitable. And so he's really understood how to manage margins in a distribution system that allows the pricing that Bryce has described in the retail stores. It's a remarkable system.
Yeah, but it's a lot of work. I mean, just to give you a little bit of background to what Michael was saying, we have a 30,000 square foot commissary right outside of downtown LA, where we produced every meal every day. So we're making right now about 80,000 meals a week. So we procure them from local. We try to get as much local food as we can, but we also use national companies as well. We cook those meals from scratch around the clock. We have chefs that are creating recipes. We package that food. We have our own distribution, so we have about 50 to 60 Everytable refrigerated trucks, and then they distribute the food as well. So we're able to save on a lot of costs there and pass that over to the consumer. Right now, we're making a meal at an average of $3.35 per meal. And we want to continue to get better in that. So what's going to be important in our growth and our success is our ability to grow and be able to leverage those economies of scale and be able to negotiate better pricing from growers, et cetera. And so that's why we're pretty ambitious about, our growth. A lot of people say like last year, 2022, we opened up about 45 stores. This year, we scaled it down to 20, but we understand that that's going to be what's going to help us be successful is our ability to grow and grow quickly, and also at the same time be able to raise that capital to support that.
It's a great story. Thank you, Bryce. So
Thank
Peter
you.
wanted to talk to you about. There's some great questions here. What are you looking for when you are looking at a potential investment, both on the left side and the right side? And is the solution on the right side, where we don't know what we're doing in terms of food, is to go back to foods in their original form? And I think it was Michael Pollan who wrote, let's just eat what our grandmothers and grandfathers understood to be food.
Yes.
So help us understand your investment strategy as you think about potential investments, and what are possible solutions on that right side?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the last part first and just say that there is a lot of wisdom in old food cultures. And I don't think people who lived 5,000, 10,000 years ago were geniuses. I think they just tried a lot of things. And the things that worked, they stuck with, and the things that didn't work, they dropped. And fast forward centuries or millennia, and you're left with old food cultures that work, but all the experiments are lost to history. So we just don't know what there was that was tried out. And I think the recognition that at least we have at 1cc is that a novel food or a novel food process that somebody comes up with today cannot be validated. You cannot determine what it's going to do to people's bodies except by giving it to people. And unfortunately, years, decades before you find out what you're doing wrong. So yeah, we're very interested in as unprocessed as possible. We're not opposed to all kinds of processing. Like cooking is a form of processing. I'm going to say, cooking's been around for a little while. It's good. But these novel efforts, now cellular ag is the new latest thing, and we're going to try to grow beef in a test tube. But the problem, any rancher will tell you that the quality of the meat from a cow is a function of what you fed the cow, and that we have no way to really characterize that whole process because it's one of these complex systems. So yeah, so we look for as unprocessed as possible and otherwise aligned with old food cultures. And then what we look for in our firm is first, we ask ourselves, is the entrepreneur bringing the right tools to the problem? So we're very interested in traceability and transparency, and there's a lot of benefit to improving that. If you could do traceability all the way from the farmer's field, you can actually get farmers paid for doing a higher quality job. Right now, those signals disappear in the commodity supply chain. And the big industrial players, have no interest in helping a higher quality path because that runs counter to what they're trying to do. So we're very interested in that. And engineering, you take some software developers, a database, and some talented engineers. I'm not trivializing this. It's a hard problem to solve, but at least you're bringing the right tools to the party. And there's other ones. For example, we're invested in an IoT mesh thermal sensor company that maintains and tracks the temperatures in the cold chain. And that has huge impact, even climate impacts, because the cold chain for food is so large that it's one of the big contributors to GHG emissions. And obviously, if you go out of compliance, you have to throw the food away, as anyone knows who runs a restaurant. So the stakes are high. So we ask, is it bringing the right people and the right methodology to the problem? And if that is the case, are they going to improve the environmental, human, or social health of the food system? So those are the criteria that we look at, and then they have to be able to succeed and scale. Everytable is doing a great job And what they're doing is, bringing less processed, healthier food to the market, and they have a model that can, scale and succeed. And so that's critical, because if you can't scale and succeed, then you're not going to have the promised impact. So you really need both.
And so, Bryce, on that note, back to you. So, as you think about the work that you are going to do beyond Everytable, and thinking about how you're going to want to impact marginalized communities and people of color and giving them opportunities that will help them and certainly, hopefully, help the food system overall and the health and nutrition of them and our planet. What else are you looking for? What other ideas and thoughts are you thinking about that you can reveal today that that you might want to pursue?
Yeah, I'm always looking at my work from a lens of how do I provide opportunities for those who have been on the margins or have been shut out. So many people in my life have done that for me and invested in me. So that's just in my DNA. Personally, I had a stepmother who was an educator who told me from a young age, I see and believe in people when they don't believe in themselves. And then also professionally, I was able to work for Starbucks early in my career when Starbucks was like 300-400 stores, which sounds a lot, but now they're at 30,000. And one of the things I learned from Starbucks is they spend an enormous amount of money and time and effort in investing in developing people. And if you look at the industry overall, I talk to operators every day and keep in contact with them, and we are losing an immense amount of talent for a number of reasons, but one of them is that we have stepped away from the importance of investing in people. So for me, my future work is, I wanted to work with smaller, up-and-coming entrepreneurs that I had come across throughout the years who were doing things within agriculture, who were restaurant operators, who had CPG products that they were trying to develop. And all of us, both of us on this stage can attest to, or three of us, is that, starting a business is probably one of the most difficult things that you're going to ever do, and being an entrepreneur. But when you put that, you accompany the fact that if you come from a background or a neighborhood where you don't have any entrepreneurs that you can point to or mentor you, and you don't know how to navigate accessing capital, which is what Peter and his firm have been doing for years, and the nuances and the hard work that goes into that, no matter what great idea and have and work ethic you have, you're probably not going to be successful. It's only 2% of small businesses in this country are owned by African Americans. And so for me, my work beyond Everytable, I'm still working with Everytable, but beyond is to say, how can I help those entrepreneurs be successful and guide them in their journey and give back in that way? Why do they need to go down a road that I've been down and several people have been down, where I can tell you, you don't need to make a right, you probably should make a left. And when you make that left, you may want to talk to Peter about, what's on that road as well. So I feel like that's what I can help guide. But like I said, it's in my DNA. I'm obligated to do it. I stand on the shoulders of so many folks who have succeeded and worked hard to put me in the position that I'm in today. So that's what I'm excited about. And lastly, I'll share, I'm writing my second book. That'll come out next year.
Awesome.
So I'm excited about doing that.
Oh, that's great, Bryce. That's great. And so, Peter, here's a question, or really two questions for you. So somebody in this audience is going to come to you with an idea. It's going to be a nice PowerPoint deck, and they're going to say, here is my idea. Are you going to invest? And the second question is, for the two types of companies that you do invest in, how do you look at valuations and investment time frame? So how do you start with an entrepreneur who has an idea that might be good, that might scale, and then how do you think about valuation and investment time frame?
Yeah, so we talked to a lot of companies. Last year, we had almost 600 companies go through our pipeline. Wow. And we invested in 6. So it's a pretty fine screen, but people send us a deck and an overview, and we try to help. At a minimum, we've got some tools that can be helpful to entrepreneurs, and we try to, if they're not a fit for us, suggest some other potential investors that could be. That's a large part of the conversations that we have. And I think, the key thing again is being able to point to the positive impact that you're going to have in the food system is really a foundational criteria for us. And we're very impact focused, but we're really contrarian. We never ask any entrepreneur to report anything that they aren't already measuring. And because we have the criteria that you have to be improving some part of the food system, then they're usually measuring something that is of interest. But a lot of the fact that engineering doesn't work in food, we try to engineer finance as well, and that doesn't work. And all the impact metrics that are out there don't work. And you end up with these crazy things like, ESG saying Exxon is approved and Tesla is not approved. And, how do you compare environment with governance? And you can't synthesize that. So we really just look at the business, is it going to have a positive impact? And then, again, are you bringing the right tools to the party?
So we've got about 3 minutes, and we've got a few more questions, so I'm going to quickly see if I can get through them, and we'll see if we get some quick answers. So, Bryce, does Everytable accept SNAP?
Yes.
And does that positively affect the return business?
Yes, it does. I mean, you're providing access to folks who, may have been only using that for, fast food or EBT for fast food, and now they have access to Everytable. So we've just launched it in about 5 of our stores late last year, and then we are on track to have it throughout all of our stores in Southern California and New York by the end of the year.
Peter, do you think that cell-based meat will be the future margarine of our time?
100%.
100%, all right. So don't invest there.
Well, it's we keep engineering and we learn it doesn't work. It's the next thing.
So Bryce, healthy food in terms of all of its positives is nevertheless somewhat different from, as we heard in the burger discussion, the characteristics that we Americans tend to like as we think about food. We've been trained to eat food that has characteristics that might not be completely consistent with it. How does that work from a consumer point of view as Everytable rolls out really lovely and delicious foods, but they're not burgers and fries and shakes?
Yeah, I mean, we create and we try to create community-inspired food. So in the beginning, and then we continue to do that, we partnered with, for example, a social enterprise in LA that worked with former incarcerated and gang members, and we created a salmon-inspired meal. We also created a turkey taco bowl that's similar to a burrito that's really popular, obviously, all over the country, but specifically in LA. And we also, create and look at what current trends or what people are eating, not only nationally, but also locally as well, and try to keep our ears and eyes open to that. I think, and bring people along, somebody may come to us, and a lot of people have come to us and they've eaten a turkey taco bowl and they're like, what the hell is quinoa? I don't want that. But because we built the trust, our managers and our store future franchisees have built that trust, and then that consumer will say, you know what, I trust you, I enjoyed the turkey taco bowl, so now I'm going to try the arugula salad with quinoa. And so we understand how do we meet people where they are and bring them along and increase their palate and their diet for the positive.
That's awesome. And last question, as we're running out of time, Peter, do companies that you invest in need initial funding prior to your consideration of investment?
We're often the first institutional capital, so mostly there's a friends and family or some angel money already in the company. We like to see some traction. I can't tell the difference between a good company and the other kind. So I like talking to a customer or a few customers, and hopefully it's not a relative of the founder. So, that kind of matters. We would have liked to invest in Everytable. We knew Sam Polk when he was running Feast, and had conversations, but we only had our fund up in 2019. So it was, we're early stage.
Your early stage,
Yeah.
right. Well, Bryce, Peter, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. We really appreciate your being here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome job. Thank you, thank you. Okay, thank you again, Michael and Bryce and Peter. Great session and so many great questions. So I'm glad we had lots of time to get through many questions there. So as a reminder, and actually let me grab the clicker here. Hold on. Okay, so as a reminder, you have access to all of the summit presentations and resources on the app and on the MOC website, including all the recipes that you've been tasting these last couple days, which will be posted in the next week or so. So you'll get an email notification when more resources are available. And just another reminder too, I think I checked in the app, I think about 130 people or so have submitted the responses to the short polls that are in there. So if you have not yet done so, I encourage you to do so if you'd like to be entered into a chance to win a free conference registration of your choice for 2024. So those will be up there if you get those in before Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. So just a few more instructions before I send you off to the breakout sessions here. So this is our second round of breakout sessions. Hopefully you all enjoyed your experience yesterday. Similar, and I'll show a map in a second here, but we're heading into our second round of breakout sessions from now until 12:45, at which time box lunches will be ready for you to pick up out in the plaza, just outside on the main level. Quick note on the box lunches, so a little bit different lunch than yesterday. These are already pre-prepared box lunches. If you've pre-selected an alternate vegan allergen-free lunch, just check in with our team to make sure you get the correct box. And hopefully the rain will continue to hold out for today, so it should be nice to eat outside, or you can also eat inside in Farquharson Hall, which is that main dining area in Roth Hall, or in the lower level of this building. So we have some indoor options. Oatly is sponsoring lunch, so if you didn't get a chance to try the Oatly soft serve yesterday, please do. It's amazing. So there'll be the soft serve and coffee available on the lower level after lunch from 1:30 to 2. So you won't want to miss that afternoon pick me up before our next general session that starts at 2 p.m. But before lunch, you're heading out to the breakout sessions, which again should be on the back of your name badge. Here is the map again to remind you where you'll be going. So if you are in session B1, you'll go to Danny Kaye Theater, out the main door plaza, turn left, head to the library. If you're in B2, you'll go to Anheuser-Busch Theater, which is on the main level in Roth Hall. And if you're in B3, you'll be walking down towards the river to the Student Commons building. And the B4 sponsor-only session will be in the admissions building. And again, there'll be CIA staff members around with MOC signage to help direct you. I think that's it. Everyone enjoy the breakout session, enjoy lunch, and we'll see you back here at 2 p.m. for the next general session.